The Mitsubishi Pajero has been a staple of Australian roads and tracks since 1983, but this Pajero is a little different.
Meet the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. Despite the name, it has nothing to do with the regular Mitsubishi Pajero. It's got more in common with the Triton Ute. It shares some of its panels and the chassis underneath.
But of course the Sport gets a unique SUV body. Now when you look at most rivals, and I'm talking Toyota Fortuner, Ford Everest, Isuzu MU-X, those sorts of cars, they all come with 7 seats. This one at the moment is only a 5-seater. Overseas it's available as a 7-seater, but in Australia for the moment only 5, because the curtain airbags only go to the second row. They don't reach all the way to the back of the car. So that third row seats has been left on the shelf.
The Pajero Sport and Triton also share an engine.
Now it's a lot smaller than most others in the class. You're looking at a 2.4 litre, but it does have a fair bit of torque to play with. You're looking at 430 Newton metres. Power, so-so, 133 kilowatts. But there's one crucial difference between the Triton and the Pajero Sport in terms of what's going on under there, and that is the transmission. You see, all Pajero Sports come with an automatic transmission, and instead of the outdated 5-speed unit that's in the Triton, this one gets an 8-speed. Now that's a lot of ratios to choose from, and often when you bung that many in a car, it can get a little bit confused just trying to work out what gear to be in. But in the Pajero Sport, it's all pretty good news. It does a really nice job of shifting between the gears, so fairly smooth, and also pretty intuitive, well-timed shifts, so it sort of picks the time to change and does it nice and swiftly. And it's also pretty fuel efficient. The claimed average is 8 litres 100 k's. Now, I'm not getting that, but you never do in this sort of driving. It's more like 11.5 litres, but again, for a car this size, it's pretty good going. But the biggest issue when it comes to fuel on the Pajero Sport is the size of the tank. It's only 68 litres, so it's actually 7 litres less than the one in the Triton. So in sort of regular driving, you're going to struggle to get sort of 500 k's out of a tank, and if you're doing this sort of stuff, certainly less than that. Now, speaking of tougher terrain, the Pajero Sport actually sits slightly higher on its suspension than the Triton. So you're looking at 218 millimetres of ground clearance, and there's some sort of decent sheets of steel under there to hopefully protect things. The approach angle, it matches the Triton bang on at 30 degrees, which is great for this sort of stuff. You can tackle some pretty steep inclines. Departure angle, it's better than Triton, which isn't hard because the Triton's pretty average in that department, but you're looking at 23.1 degrees, so you've still got to be a little bit careful about what you're coming off and what sort of angle you're likely to pitch in at. But it's surprising, that tiny little bit of extra angle does make it a lot less susceptible to dragging its tail, although that said, the Triton I had and tested in this sort of terrain did have a tow bar, which obviously makes it worse again. And you've also got Mitsubishi Super Select 2 4-wheel drive system, which is a pretty clever system. Shift on the fly, obviously low range in there too, and a locking rear diff and centre diff if you want it. And the traction control is pretty good. Sometimes you can hear it working away up all this sort of stuff, but it seems to do a pretty good job of getting the drive where it needs to be. All up, it is a fairly reasonable package off-road. It'll do plenty of what you need and do it relatively easily, so that's not such a bad deal. That said, it is pretty ordinary on-road. The steering's pretty woolly, and just the car sort of mushes around a bit. It's not the most stable thing in the world. But value is the key point with the Pajero Sport. You get a fair bit of equipment in it, and it undercuts most rivals, in some cases by thousands of dollars. So throw in a 5-year warranty and it's a reasonable deal.